March 2011. Damp, cold air enveloped Beaver Creek Reservoir, about 15 miles east of Kearney, Nebraska town. Yellow lights from rescue vehicles and investigators' flashlights swept through the misty fog, reflecting on the agitated water surface after decades of stillness. Central, I need forensics team and salvage unit to the East Dam area immediately. Investigator Lena Cruz's voice crackled over the radio, hoarse from wind and excitement. What started as routine annual dam maintenance water release had turned into an unforeseen spectacle, a thing lying deep under cold mud for over 3 decades, something Kearney town thought time had buried forever. On shore, local TV cameras crowded, lenses aimed at the bubbling water zone. Rumors spread fast in the gray morning, an old car just discovered at reservoir bottom, possibly linked to Grace Whitmore disappearance. The 23-year-old girl vanished snowy night, 1976, driving her gold Plymouth Duster away from Christmas party at Hitching Post Tavern. For 35 years, file coded M1000, 976-214, gathered dust in Buffalo County Police archives, alongside hundreds theories, rumors, and a family never stopped waiting. As the car was pulled from water, black mud clumps fell off, revealing rusted body and warped license plate. An officer leaned down, whispered, "Plymouth Duster Gold." Entire area fell silent. In that moment, all understood what buried under reservoir bottom, not just steel and mud, but a lie stretched over 3 decades. For years, Kearney residents lived with Grace Whitmore disappearance, ghost. They erected memorials, wrote articles, held prayers, but no one truly believed truth would return. Until this cold morning, when Beaver Creek Reservoir water gave back what it once held. And as investigation reopened, no one knew what they about to uncover would completely change how they viewed their town and those once protected it. Before continuing this shocking story, take a second to hit subscribe and like this video. Your support helps us keep bringing forgotten cases back to light, so victims like Grace can be heard one last time. Because the Beaver Creek discovery, not just end of a disappearance, it first domino in chain events, exposing secrets buried deep 35 years, and when police finally identified suspect, it not stranger in shadows, but someone entire community trusted, someone once wore justice badge. December 17, 1976. Kearney, Nebraska was shrouded in biting cold darkness, with the west wind whistling through the silent rows of brick houses, dragging thin flurries of snow, skittering across Highway 22. Dim yellow sodium lamps flickered in the fog, their light spilling onto the road in glistening metallic sheens. Inside the Hitching Post Tavern, the local bank's Christmas party had just ended. The country music faded weakly, leaving only the smell of cigarette smoke, cold beer, and the sparse laughter of a few lingering patrons. Grace Whitmore, 23 years old, gathered her brown coat from the chair, adjusted her hair, and said goodbye. She was the last to leave the bar, slender and bright-faced in the hazy amber light. "Just 10 minutes to home," she told the bartender. Her voice light but firm, then stepped out the door, her white breath dissolving into the frigid air. Her gold Plymouth Duster was parked right at the roadside, its paint reflecting the bar's lights like the last embers in the night. She started the engine, the motor's rumble fading as the car turned onto Highway 22. The road winding through snow-covered hills, skirting Beaver Creek Reservoir, before reaching the small house where she lived with her mother. The snow began falling heavier. On the dashboard clock, the hour hand passed 10, with only the fleeting reflections of road signs flashing through the windshield. A truck driver coming the opposite way recalled years later that he had seen a gold car moving slowly on the slope near the dam, its taillights glowing, then suddenly winking out. 22:40. In the small house on Lincoln Avenue, Grace's mother picked up the phone to dial her daughter. It rang 4 times, then went dead. She tried again, still silence, only the wind rattling the window panes. She drove along the route Grace usually took, all the way to the Gibbon Bridge, but saw nothing but tire tracks lost in the fresh snow. She returned home, standing at the window, watching the streetlights reflect off the icy surface, a chill creeping from her palms up her neck. By midnight, as the wind had swept away the first tire tracks, she picked up the phone again and called the Buffalo County Dispatch. "My daughter hasn't come home. She went to a party and was supposed to be back 3 hours ago." Her voice was hoarse, straining for calm. At the other end, the dispatcher asked for name, age, description, then told her to stay on the line. Outside, far in the snow, patrol sirens began to wail. Red and blue lights spun over the ice-covered rooftops, reflecting in the eyes of the waiting mother. Somewhere between Highway 22 and Beaver Creek Reservoir, the last trace of Grace Whitmore had vanished. The mother stood motionless, still clutching the receiver. The door opened, a blast of cold air rushing in with the silhouette of a young police officer. "Are you Mrs. Whitmore?" he asked, his voice low and clipped. "Yes. My daughter Grace hasn't come home." The mother pointed toward the snow-covered road. "She went that way." The officer nodded, signaling the driver to turn on the high beams. 2 white beams sliced through the thick snow, illuminating the gray-silver trees. That night, Beaver Creek Reservoir remained silent, but the police lights had begun staining the water's edge red. The next morning, December 18, 1976, weak sunlight shone on the frozen fields north of Kearney. The Buffalo County's first search team arrived at the reservoir area just after 7. Wind from the Platte River cut across the skin, carrying damp chill. Deputy Frank Delancey, the scene commander, stepped out of the patrol car, his boots sinking deep into the nearly 10-inch snow. He buttoned his collar, gazing at the hazy expanse ahead, the slippery Highway 22 curving around the reservoir. Scattered bare trees, and at the edge of sight, the partially frozen water surface mixed with gray-silver fog. "Right here," a young officer said, pointing to the roadside edge. Delancey knelt, brushing away the thin snow layer. Beneath were 2 distinct tire tracks, starting from the middle of the road, then veering gradually toward the slope's edge. He followed the tracks step by step until they stopped abruptly at a wet patch of ground where thin ice had shattered into fragments. 12 meters, he said, noting it in his pad. No brake marks, no signs of turning back. The wind picked up again. A new thin layer of ice like glass was forming where the water had cracked. No debris, no oil slicks, just tire tracks leading straight into the reservoir, as if the car had vanished right there. Delancey looked around, radioing for the county rescue team. 2 hours later, their jeep arrived with cables, iron hooks, and long wooden poles. "Water's about 5 meters deep near the dam," Delancey reminded. "Lower the hooks slowly." They dropped the lines, dragging back and forth several times. The hooks only brought up mud and decayed grass. The reservoir surface was still, fog swirling around, responding with nothing but the faint slither of cable over water. "No metal response," a diver said, voice muffled behind his neck wrap. "Check another 3 meters west," Delancey replied, eyes fixed on the water. The process repeated for nearly an hour. Results remained empty. No car, no body, no debris indicating impact. Just snow, wind, and cold mud. Around 9, Delancey stood silently staring at the reservoir, pencil trembling on the notepad page. He scratched quick lines: suspected slide accident, vehicle, possibly sunk under ice. No signs of foul play. Not far away, Mrs. Whitmore was brought to the scene. She wrapped a scarf tightly around her neck, her eyes following every movement of the rescue team. "You should go home and rest," Delancey said softly, voice steady. "If the car did sink, we'll salvage it when the water warms." She just nodded faintly, saying nothing. Near noon, the wind shifted, more ice cracking. The rescue team reeled in the lines. Delancey ordered the area sealed, staking markers at the tire tracks and suspect zone. "Can't do more today," he said. "We wait for clear weather, water recede." He looked at the reservoir one last time, the gray murky surface reflecting his blurred shadow. Then he turned back to the car. On the radio, the dispatcher's voice crackled through static. "Confirmed, no vehicle found, no victim. Note possible slide accident. Search suspended temporarily." Delancey hung up the receiver, sitting silently in the car, eyes through the windshield. Snow began falling again, small light flakes but dense, quickly blanketing white the slope where tire tracks had been clear. In under 10 minutes, all traces were erased as if they never existed. Beaver Creek Reservoir fell silent again. Only the wind lingering and the faint acrid smell of a still warm engine. Somewhere beneath the ice, the answers lay buried. And no one on that morning's team knew they had just left the scene of a murder. 2 days after the initial search, snow still blanketed Highway 22. The orange tape strips the investigation team had staked the day before were now torn by wind, only scraps tangled in gray ice. Deputy Frank Delancey returned to the scene with a group of technicians to finalize reports and collect more samples. He still believed Grace Whitmore's Plymouth Duster had slid into the reservoir that snowy night, but his report needed concrete evidence to close the case. As they cleared fresh snow, one technician knelt at the slope's edge and called out, "Something here!" Between two chunks of frigid rock, Delancey spotted a small piece of glass glinting under the dim sun. He picked it up with tweezers, placing it in a nylon bag. The glass was thick, curved edge with silver backing, possibly from a headlight or side mirror. A few meters away, another found a faint yellow streak on a large boulder. When rubbed lightly, paint flaked off in thin sheets, gleaming the dull yellow typical of 1970s car paint. "Seems to match the girl's car color," Delancey said. He labeled the samples, Men1, glass, and M2, paint, then stored them in a preservation box. The team fell silent in the wind, only the rustle of plastic bags and quick pencil scratches on reports. By noon, as they packed up, Delancey scanned the slope one last time. Everything seemed to fit the accident hypothesis: tire tracks, paint scrape, glass shard. He radioed to send the samples to the Lincoln Tech Lab for spectral analysis and mechanical forensics. "Need to confirm if this glass matches the Plymouth Duster model," he said. Dispatch replied curtly. "We'll forward this afternoon." 3 days later, results came back. In the carbon-typed report, bold text stood out: "Sample glass M1 does not match 1974. Plymouth Duster vehicle glass, dimensions and curvature belong to Dodge Monaco or Ford Ltd headlight type." Delancey frowned. Grace's Plymouth Duster was a compact coupe with much thinner glass. This result made the scene odd. Why was a piece of glass not from the victim's car right at the slope where she supposedly slid? He noted in the margin, "foreign glass, possibly dropped from another vehicle during rescue or passing traffic." On December 22nd, as the tech team dismantled markers, a middle-aged man approached. He was a farm owner west of the reservoir, named Earl Dempsey. "I heard the girl went missing here," he said, voice slow and raspy. "That night, I saw a car stopped near the dam, a police car. I remember because its lights were off, but still reflecting on the ice. I thought they were checking something, so I didn't pay attention." "You're sure?" Delancey asked, eyes sharpening briefly. "Sure. Around 10:30 at night. I was at the horse barn, saw it clear across the snowy field. Lights off, but patrol car outline I recognized." "Did you see anyone exit the vehicle?" "No. After about 10 minutes, the car left." Delancey recorded the statement, voice even and cold. He closed the pad, saying, "Thank you, we'll check patrol logs for that night." Dempsey nodded, retreating into the cold wind, leaving dark boot prints deep in the snow. That afternoon, Delancey sat in the small office at Buffalo County headquarters, beside the radio and reservoir map. He opened the patrol logbook, flipping to December 17th. His own pencil writing was still there: 22:15, patrolling Beaver Creek. 23 o'clock, left area. Nothing unusual detected. He stared at the lines for a long moment, then slowly closed the book. In the report submitted to superiors the next morning, the witness statement section read only, "Checked area around Beaver Creek Reservoir. No signs of foul play detected." No one asked further. Beaver Creek Reservoir gradually froze solid, covering the tire tracks, paint flecks, and the faint suspicion that had flickered in an old deputy's mind. 3 days after Christmas 1976, snow stopped falling. but north winds still scoured cold over Beaver Creek Reservoir. The ice cover thickened, gleaming steel gray-white. Deputy Frank Delancey returned to the scene with 2 young officers, carrying orders for supplemental shoreline sweep before the case was temporarily closed. The glass and yellow paint samples collected earlier led to no new leads. The Lincoln Tech report confirmed insufficient basis to determine impact. To Delancey, that was another way of saying the matter would soon be forgotten. Wind howled across the reservoir, cold enough that no one wanted to talk. They walked the water's edge, ice hardening into slabs, some up to 10 centimeters thick. An officer bent down, picking up a small item stuck on a low tree branch near the slope edge, a 10-centimeter strip of silver duct tape, end still adhering wet soil, and a few dry grass blades. "This looks recent," the other said, holding it out to Delancey. He took it, examining under dim light. The adhesive side was still tacky, no dust, indicating it appeared recently, possibly within days. Delancey flipped open his notepad, bagged the sample, label M3. He placed the tape fragment in a plastic bag, then continued along the shore. But throughout that morning, they found nothing else of value. No debris, no slide marks, no metal objects under the ice, just snow, rocks, and the reservoir surface thick as frosted glass. In the afternoon, Delancey brought the tape sample back to headquarters. In the makeshift forensics room, he placed it under light, tilting it, seeing dark dried adhesive ridges on the edge. He noted features: metallic surface, reflective type, used in mechanics. A maintenance tech glanced over, saying, "We use this to secure wiring or connect patrol car power cables." Industrial adhesive, hard to find in civilian stores. Delancey went silent. He showed no reaction, just nodded, labeled the sample M3, tape fragment, and sealed it in an evidence envelope. That same evening, he wrote a preliminary report to superiors. In the notes, he added, "No vehicle or body found. Silver tape sample recovered near water edge. Likely fishing trash discarded by anglers." The next day, weather worsened. Snow fell steadily. Fierce, cold winds from the Platte River, dropping temperatures to -15 degrees Celsius. The reservoir was fully covered, inaccessible by boat or rescue hooks. The investigation team could only erect wooden barriers and post danger, thin ice signs. The Buffalo County Sheriff signed a memo suspending search, awaiting spring thaw. But spring came late. In February, ice remained thick, and news of Grace Whitmore appeared only sporadically in local papers. Those who knew her gradually stopped mentioning her name in the bar where it began. In the sheriff's office, the thin file was stapled shut, placed in the last drawer of the filing cabinet, beside dozens of other missing person cases. Delancey, on night shifts, sometimes still drove past Beaver Creek Reservoir. He stopped at the slope where tire tracks once marked, gazing down at the dark water, occasionally hearing faint ice cracks like breaths. Each time, he told himself, it was just an accident. The girl slid, ice broke, cold water. No one at fault. On January 10th, an internal meeting confirmed the case investigation suspension. No evidence proving crime, no direct witnesses, no vehicle signs under the reservoir. Delancey's final report was exactly 2 pages, ending dryly. No criminal basis. Recommend filing as undetermined cause accident. Search ended January 10, 1977. That evening, Delancey returned home late. He opened the duty log, adding a short line, Case 214, closed. Beaver Creek remained silent. Outside, winter winds blew over the hills again. Beaver Creek Reservoir had become a flat mirror, thick ice, reflecting faint moonlight like cooled steel. Beneath that ice, the dark water still held something they hadn't found, and no one would return there for many years. When the official search was suspended, local press honed in on the one remaining question: if not an accident, where did Grace Whitmore go? Pressure from family and media forced Buffalo County Police to reopen internal questioning in early January 1977. Deputy Frank Delancey was tasked with supplementing the file, reviewing all close contacts to the victim in the week before her disappearance. The first called was Mark Tiller, Grace's boyfriend, a car salesman in Grand Island. He arrived at headquarters in a gray sweater, face showing clear fatigue. Delancey invited him into the small interrogation room, turned on the tape recorder, starting with procedural questions. When did you last see Grace? Friday evening. Around 7, I called her before she went to the party at Hitching Post. Did you go with her? No, I had plans with friends at Boone's Motor Inn. We watched football, stayed all night. Delancey continued slowly. Who can confirm that? Mark provided a list of 3 roommates. Police verified that evening. All matched. They watched the Nebraska-Oklahoma game, ordered pizza at 9:30, and Mark left around 8 the next morning. Alibi too solid, unbreakable. In notes, Delancey typed, Mark Tiller, excluded. No criminal motive. The next day, he and another officer returned to Hitching Post Tavern to re-interview all witnesses. Owner Margaret Hill recalled, she was cheerful, no signs of intoxication. Everyone wished Merry Christmas, left in groups. Grace was last out, around 10:20. No one with her. A bartender added, she left a nickel tip, smiled, and said, see you after the holidays. Nothing unusual. No one present that night mentioned arguments, conflicts, or strangers following Grace. Even the bar's old VHS surveillance, when reviewed, only captured the counter area. No exterior parking lot footage. Delancey entered in the report, no recorded violence, threats, or conflicts between victim and any individuals. No signs of altercation. In February, snow melted gradually. Beaver Creek reservoir surface spotted with dark water patches. Police decided on one more dive check, hoping receding water might reveal the sunken car. Rescue team set up a shore tent, bringing air compressors and hooks. Water temperature still around 3 degrees Celsius, dark and murky as oil. 2 divers descended to the staked wooden marker area. They worked nearly 2 hours, scanning the entire reservoir bottom around the suspect spot. Surfacing, the diver shook his head, breath steaming. Nothing. Bottom all mud and tree roots. No vehicle signs. Another added, if a car really went in here, it'd leave gouges or air bubbles, but nothing. Too clean. Delancey stood on shore, watching the 2 men shivering from cold, a hollow feeling rising. He knew this would be the last search before refreezing. The flat water reflected leaden sky patches, only a few ice floes drifting like silent witnesses. As the rescue team packed gear, a young officer asked quietly, do you think it could be a criminal case? Delancey replied evenly, no evidence suggests that. No blood, no drag marks, no witnesses to impact. All just speculation. That evening, in the Buffalo County Sheriff's Office, Delancey sat before the Olympia typewriter, typing the final summary. The rhythmic clacks echoed in the empty room. Investigation results summary, as of March 10, 1977. Vehicle location undetermined. Victim body not found. Glass and paint samples insufficient for conclusion. Last witness confirms victim left Hitching Post alone. Approx. 22:20. No clear criminal elements. He paused, looking out the window. Snow began falling again. Fine flakes dusting the headquarters roof like thin powder. Streetlights cast through bars, illuminating stacks of still files on desks. At the desk corner, the envelope with the silver tape fragment from the reservoir edge remained. Labeled M3, never sent for forensics. Delancey filed Grace's dossier in the 4th drawer of storage, beside unresolved, accidental cases. He locked the drawer, pocketed the key. Before leaving, he added a final short line to the duty log. Case 214, temporary close. Accidental drowning. Unconfirmed. Spring 1977. Beaver Creek Reservoir thawed completely. Water swirled lazily through deep willow roots, surface flat, as if no tire tracks ever marked it. Grace Whitmore's disappearance closed as undetermined accident. No one knew that in the just-locked file drawer, a real murder had been buried for over 3 decades. File M1976-214, the disappearance of Grace Whitmore, was stapled shut with a rusted clip, lying dormant in the 4th drawer of Buffalo County's filing cabinet. The typed accidental, unconfirmed on the cover, had faded, blue ink smudged like time-worn erosion. No one in the office remembered how the case began, only that it was one of dozens of undetermined accident files closed in winter 1977, when Beaver Creek Reservoir still lay ice-covered. In 1985, after nearly 10 years, a new sheriff, Chief Harold McKean, conducted a review of old files to update storage systems. Flipping to M1976-214, he paused. The thin cover unusually sparse, a few reports, black and white photos, and a short typed account by Deputy Frank Delancey. McKean read each page carefully. Bar witness statements, tire track maps, appraised paint and glass samples. Final conclusion: insufficient criminal elements. He exhaled, writing in red pen at page corner, "No new evidence, cannot reopen." In the 1980s, no DNA tech, no national databases. Cases like this often ended with a file closing line. McKean resealed the documents, stamped archived, and moved to the basement storage, where damp, old paper smell and metal dust mingled like a graveyard of unsolved cases. Time passed. Frank Delancey gradually left the force. He served over 20 more years, retiring spring 2001. The farewell was quiet, a few old colleagues shaking hands, recalling winter accidents, drownings he'd investigated. No one mentioned Grace Whitmore. After, he sold his small Kearney house, moving to Gibbon, quiet town 20 miles away, living alone in a wood cabin at Forest Edge. Meanwhile, the Whitmore family never gave up. Each December, exact disappearance day, Mrs. Whitmore sent a request to reopen to county police office. Each letter identical, shaky handwritten lines. "Please reconsider. We believe our daughter didn't have an accident." Sometimes attached an old photo, Grace in floral dress, tilted smile under soft curls. Those letters were received, stamped received, then clipped into the same M1976-214 file. On the first page, handwritten lines accumulated yearly: 1983, denied; 1989, no new evidence; 1994, denied again. By 2000, the last line appeared, scrawled in black ink: family request denied, insufficient cause. When Delancey left the force, his files transferred to Central Archives. He never mentioned Beaver Creek, nor was asked. Occasionally, neighbors saw him drive his old pickup past the reservoir, stopping minutes, smoking, then driving on. Some said, in winter, he often sat on the porch long, gazing reservoirward at dusk. By 2010, Buffalo County's archives were crammed with over 700 unsolved cases. Old files were gradually shifting to digital, but M1976-214 remained in the insufficient data for digitization group. No one paid attention to it anymore. Rust stains from the staple spread across the brown paper cover. Ink faded so much that the words Beaver Creek, missing person, were barely legible under the light. 35 years had passed. People had forgotten Grace Whitmore's name, forgotten that snowy night. Only one person hadn't forgotten. Her mother, now frail and elderly, sent another letter that December, handwriting shaky, the last sentence the same as always. "Please tell me where my daughter really is." No one replied. The file still lay dormant in the damp, cold basement, under the label, "Cold Case." No new evidence. But just a few months later, in spring 2011, Beaver Creek Reservoir's water level would drop for dam repairs, and a small yellow metal piece would emerge from the mud, reopening the case that for 35 years everyone believed had been laid to rest. March 2011. Winter in central Nebraska had just retreated, exposing wet strips of land around Beaver Creek Reservoir. After more than 35 years, work on repairing the old dam's spillway gates resumed. Several irrigation team trucks rolled along the muddy embankment road, gasoline fumes mixing with cold steam. When the spillway opened, water roared from the reservoir bed, carrying dry branches, tree roots, and dark mud clumps buried for decades. Around 11 a.m. on March 8th, a worker named Ray Lanning, while clearing mud near the South Dam area, spotted a small metallic object glinting in the sun. At first, he thought it was an old soda can lid, but when he rinsed off the mud, embossed lettering emerged clearly. 74. DS, part of a license plate, faint yellow paint still clinging despite corrosion. Ray turned the metal piece in his hand, recognizing the numbering style from 1970s plates, issued by the Nebraska Department of Transportation. In the right corner was a square rust mark, where an inspection sticker had once been attached. "This has to be from some real old car," Ray said to the site supervisor, then placed the license plate fragment in a plastic bag. The supervisor, who had once worked for Buffalo County government, suddenly recalled the name that had haunted the area for years: Grace Whitmore. He immediately reported the find to the local police office. That afternoon, the evidence was transported to Buffalo County Sheriff's Office headquarters, accompanied by a report of found metallic object suspected to be vehicle license plate. A young records clerk, while entering data, discovered the 74 DS sequence matched the registration for a gold Plymouth Duster, the type of car Grace Whitmore had reported missing in 1976. The news quickly escalated to Nebraska State Patrol in Lincoln. 2 days later, an internal memo was issued. Subject: possible evidence. Case M1976-214 action, referred to Cold Case Division for review. The Cold Case Division, already reviewing unsolved disappearances in central Nebraska, immediately prioritized the case. In the morning meeting on March 12, Division Commander Lieutenant Colonel Morris Grant placed the license plate fragment on the table, its yellow paint still faintly gleaming under the lights. "If this really is the plate from the 1976 Duster," he said, "then we're looking at an unsolved case from over 3 decades ago." 2 investigators were assigned: Special Investigator Lena Cruz, 38-year-old Mexican-American detective who had cracked multiple Platte River area disappearances, and Detective Cole Jensen, State Patrol sonar tech expert. They started by retrieving the full original file from Buffalo County archives. That afternoon, in the musty records room, Lena opened file M1976-214. The smell of damp paper and rusting iron wafted up. She read the first line on the faded report: "Undetermined accident. Beaver Creek Reservoir. Victim Grace Whitmore, 23 years old." Lena flipped further, finding a small note clipped to a 1994 letter from Grace's mother, shaky handwriting. "Please tell me where my daughter is." She paused silently, then said softly to Jensen, "Some cases just need one piece of iron to wake up." They began reviewing 1976 topographic maps of Beaver Creek Reservoir and comparing to current conditions. Per the file, Grace's presumed disappearance site was near the south slope, about 200 meters from the dam, the exact spot where the worker found the plate fragment. Jensen said, "If the plate's there, high chance the car is still in the reservoir." The next noon, Cold Case Division sent a memo requesting temporary lockdown of the reservoir area for sonar survey. A tech team was dispatched with a Humminbird 997C side-scan sonar system specialized for underwater searches. 35 years after the file closed, the Grace Whitmore case was officially reopened. In her first notes, Lena Cruz wrote, "A license plate fragment rising from the mud. That's not just metal, it's the memory of a disappearance buried too long." As night fell, Beaver Creek Reservoir grew still again. New iron stakes marking the site were driven along the shore, reflecting construction lights. No one on the tech team knew that beneath that cold mud, the answers had lain there since winter 1976, waiting to be found again. The morning of March 14, 2011, at the Cold Case Division office in Lincoln, white light from the window shone on a table covered in paper files and old maps. Lena Cruz and Cole Jensen sat facing each other, file M1976-214, freshly transferred from Buffalo County, between them. Brown paper cover worn, edges curled from dampness. Jensen donned gloves, flipping pages. "This is all there is?" he asked, voice low. Lena nodded slightly. A disappearance treated as accident, no physical evidence. But that plate fragment, if it's really from the duster, this case never ended. On page 4, Jensen paused. It was a photo of Deputy Frank Delancey's patrol log from the night of December 17, 1976. Amid the thin handwriting, one line stood out bolder, ink slightly thicker. Patrolled Beaver Creek, 22:15 to 23:45. Nothing unusual. Lena leaned in, eyes on the times. She left hitching post at 22:20, she said slowly, and vanished on the road to the reservoir about 15 minutes later. The room fell silent for a moment. Air conditioner fan hummed softly, mingling with page turns. Jensen said quietly, meaning Delancey was there right at the time Grace disappeared. Yes, Lena replied, voice cold, and he wrote nothing unusual. They exchanged looks, no more words. Old cases often held coincidences, but one matching to the minute like this, rare. Lena noted in her pad, re-examined Delancey patrol log, possible inconsistency. That afternoon, they went to Buffalo County Archives for the original patrol log. The thick book had a hard leather cover, yellowed paper, black ink handwriting. Under fluorescent lights, the Beaver Creek 22:15, 23:45 entry stood clear. Jensen leaned closer, ink tone different from other lines, possibly rewritten later. Lena silently photographed each page with her phone. We can't accuse on feeling alone, she said, but enough reason to resurvey the scene. Back at the office, they compared 1976 patrol maps to current reservoir topography. The South Embankment Road remained unchanged, only shoreline reinforced against floods. The marker where the plate was found was just over 150 meters from Delancey's logged point. Jensen eyed the map, tapping the table edge. If her car really went in there, the bottom might still hold the frame. Beaver Creek mud is thick, buries everything. Lena nodded. She drafted a formal proposal to Commander Morris Grant, request sonar survey of Beaver Creek Reservoir bed, south of Old Dam, to determine motorized vehicle presence. Equipment, Humminbird, 997C side scan, sonar system. Objective, confirm object matching small car frame, length 4.5 m. The next morning, approval came. Tech team prepped equipment, a small aluminum boat fitted with sonar scanner, black and white display screen. Jensen operated the system directly, while Lena noted coordinates. They started from the irrigation team's marker stakes, moving slowly along the edge. The water surface cold, reflecting overcast sky. Beneath deep mud, sonar pings emitted steadily, each chuck, echoing in the still air. Depth 4.3 meters, Jensen read. No large objects. They advanced 20 meters, then spiraled wider. Then the screen showed an odd dark blob, elongated oval shape, front dented, rear slightly curved. Jensen zoomed, adjusted frequency. Image sharpened, object about 4.5 meters, upside down, ends protruding from mud. Lena stared at the screen, silent. She recognized the lines: curved hood, low body, hallmark of 1970s coupes. Zoom more, she said softly. Jensen upped resolution. Sonar details emerged. Wheels, windshield frame, empty space where the cab should be. That's the car, Jensen whispered. An upside-down car. They logged coordinates, saved screenshots, and reported immediately to Lincoln HQ. Lena stood at the boat rail, gazing at the still water, late sun reflecting like a dim mirror. She said softly, almost to herself, 35 years, and she's finally about to be found. Jensen shut off sonar, started the engine back to shore. Behind them, Beaver Creek Reservoir closed in silence. But on the small screen in their hands, the upside-down car's shadow lingered, a metal ghost resting underwater for nearly half a century. The next morning, March 16, 2011, thick fog blanketed Beaver Creek Reservoir like a silver veil. Nebraska State Patrol dive team set up a field tent on shore, prepping to verify the sonar-detected object. Boat engines rumbled dully in the mist, mixing with metal clanks of anchors and air tanks. No one spoke loudly. Tension hung thick, as if all understood what they might find could end. the disappearance haunting the area for 35 years. Lena Cruz stood with Cole Jensen at the command tent, reviewing printed sonar maps and coordinates. Red pen. 14.7 meters from shore, in the reservoir's deepest zone. Jensen pointed to the bottom contour. This is where the bed dips, a natural pit, very thick mud. If the car's been there since 1976, it's mostly buried. Lena nodded faintly. She signaled the rescue team leader to begin. Two divers, Mike Peterson and Earl Hanley, checked air tanks, gauges, and headlamps. Water temp, 41 degrees Fahrenheit, Mike said, over radio. Visibility under 2 feet expected, Lena replied curtly. Confirmed. Maintain constant contact when down. Mark any metal response with buoy. Water broke as the two divers dropped from the gunwale. White foam spreading on the gray murky surface. First seconds, radio carried steady breaths. Then Mike's hoarse voice. Depth 4 meters. Thick mud, approaching target, metal object, curved surface feel. Lena gripped headphones, eyes on dive timer. Jensen sat beside, monitoring auxiliary sonar, seeing slow-moving blips. He's touching the frame, Jensen said quietly. A minute later, Mike's voice crackled, muffled. Got it, car frame. Low body curved hood, looks like coupe, touching rear metal logo. Letters, P, Lauber, Plymouth, Lena whispered. Yeah, Plymouth. Mud covers half the body. Driver door, locked. Glass partially shattered. I see the plate, 7, 4, B, S. She looked up at Jensen. No need for words. The sequence matched Grace Whitmore's vehicle registration exactly. Below, Mike circled the car, flashlight beam dimly sweeping thick black mud. He placed hand on rear frame, cold piercing gloves. Mud covers entire trunk, trying to peer through broken glass. Radio silent seconds, only labored breaths. Then Mike spoke slowly, emphasizing something inside the car. Leather wallet, brass clasp intact. Passenger seat has metal watch, round face, silver band, and human bone-like. Elbow and forearm draped over steering wheel. No one on shore spoke. Lena signaled Jensen to record all sonar signals and coordinates on camera. Confirm samples. No further touch, she said into radio. Voice steady. Mark with buoy, hold position. We'll chain custody on site. Mike dropped a red marker buoy, tied to anchor line. Bubbles rose from the spot, mingling in fog. The whole reservoir seemed to hold breath. 10 minutes later, the two divers surfaced. They hauled heavily onto the boat, water dripping murky drops on wooden deck. Mike removed mask, nodding to Lena. No doubt, that's the gold duster. Lena carefully opened the evidence bag. Mike handed up a dark brown women's leather wallet, mud-soaked, and a vintage silver-banded watch. Inside the wallet, ink-smeared driver's license, but name still readable, Grace M. Whitmore. She stood silent, long chills spreading from hands to neck. Everything seemed hushed but wind over water. For 35 years, that woman had lain underwater, just under 5 meters from surface. On shore, tech team erected site barriers. Jensen staked wood around the area, hung warning signs. Inside, forensics prepped evidence bags, numbering items. Lena entered in log, initiated chain of custody at Beaver Creek Reservoir site, March 16, 2011. Samples, leather wallet, M4, metal watch, M5, arm bone fragment, M6. All evidence sealed and directly transferred to Lincoln Forensics Lab. As sun lowered, light turned dull copper, reflecting on still water. Lena gazed at the red buoy mid-reservoir, faint light blinking in mist. She was here all that time, she said softly. Jensen replied, eyes on water, and someone knew, but stayed silent. 35 years. Somewhere under cold mud, the Plymouth duster lay intact, body coated thick silt like memory dust. But this time, no one planned to let it sleep on. 3 days after confirming the Plymouth duster lay under Beaver Creek Reservoir, initial evidence shipped to Lincoln Forensics Lab, nearly 200 kilometers from site. In the specialized truck, 3 sealed preservation crates, labeled Red Evidence, Beaver Creek Site, Case M1976-214. Inside, small items potent enough to awaken a disappearance, thought dormant 35 years. A leather wallet, a watch, and a human bone fragment. The forensics lab in a white brick building, thick glass doors, and cold neon lights. Dr. Elaine Merrow, genetics expert, donned nitrile gloves, opened container with sterile tools. Inside, arm bone fragment in clear nylon bag, mud dried to thin dark crust. Elaine noted, sample M6, likely adult female human. She signaled tech to start cleaning process. DNA extraction proceeded silently. EDTA solution vials shaken evenly, spun in centrifuge. After hours, mitochondrial DNA, mtDNA, most durable type, successfully isolated. Elaine placed results paper beside comparison file from National CODIS database, holding missing persons' relatives' DNA. In the list, a 2002 entry, Whitmore, Elizabeth. Maternal sample, mother of missing person, Grace Whitmore. mtDNA strand scanned through system. Seconds later, screen displayed, match confirmed, 100% maternal link. Elaine eyed results, then exhaled softly. No doubt anymore, she told nearby tech. That's Grace Whitmore. That afternoon, Lena Cruz and Cole Jensen arrived at forensics. Elaine handed the printed report, with Nebraska state seal. First line stated clearly, genetic analysis results, mtDNA full match to Elizabeth Whitmore sample. Victim identified as Grace M. Whitmore, missing December 1976. Lena read slowly, gripping file tight. Before her, those seemingly dry lines carried weight of an answer a mother waited over 3 decades for. Send this report to Buffalo County, she said softly. From now, it's no longer a missing person case. At Cold Case Division Office, case management system updated that afternoon. On screen, M1976-214 status shifted from missing person to homicide investigation. Red active case marker appeared beside it. We have ID, Jensen said, eyeing computer. Next step, figure why she's in the reservoir. And who put her there? Lena replied. Voice low, resolute. Summary report sent to Nebraska State Prosecutor's Office same week. Brief over 2 pages, but enough to shift entire investigation. On March 16, 2011, at Beaver Creek Reservoir, Kearney, Nebraska, rescue team located motorized vehicle. Gold Plymouth Duster, plate 74, Des. Owned by Grace Whitmore, missing December 1976. Forensics confirmed biological evidence, inside matches victim's mother's genetic sample. Case reclassified as suspected homicide, suspicious death homicide. Next day, Lena called Elizabeth Whitmore directly. Her voice trembled weakly, but words clear. When Lena reported finding Grace's car, and forensics fully confirmed identity, long silence, stretched on line. Then she said, faint as breath. I always knew it wasn't an accident. Lena didn't reply. She just said they'd continue investigating, promising, no one will forget Grace again. After call, she stood by window, gazing sunlit parking lot. In that moment, the case was no longer an old file, but an unfulfilled promise. In Lincoln, printer hummed in records room, new paper, stapled into M1976-214. Last line in black ink, clear and firm. Case status. Rupened, homicide investigation. After 35 years, Grace Whitmore's name returned. No longer a minor missing list entry, but victim in a murder case. And somewhere, the one who wrote nothing unusual, that snowy 1976 night, Frank Delancey, likely never imagined those lines would be turned over, detail by detail. The morning of March 21, 2011, the gold Plymouth Duster was salvaged from Beaver Creek Reservoir bed. The wreck hauled up slowly, thick black mud streaming from hood, algae clumps stuck to rusted frame. When wheels touched ground, no one spoke. Only crane engine roar, dripping water patter, and fishy stench spreading in cold air. Lena Cruz stood at security barrier, rubber gloves on, watching car placed on flatbed, sealed with tarp, transported to Lincoln Crime Lab tech room. 2 days later, the vehicle examination report began. In a warehouse, lit by halogen lamps, forensic engineers meticulously washed each section of the car body, documenting every dent, every patch of rust. The left rear of the vehicle revealed a deep crescent-shaped dent, about 45 centimeters wide, angled impact from right to left. Harold Keene, collision analysis expert, measured the dent's angle, calculated impact force based on frame deformation. After over an hour, he concluded, impact angle approximately 25 degrees, force equivalent to 30 to 35 miles per hour. Lena noted it immediately. The figure wasn't high enough to cause explosion or total destruction, but sufficient to push a small coupe like the Plymouth Duster off the road if on ice. More importantly, the dent didn't match any impact style from hitting rocks or falling from height. It was horizontal, even, and inward, typical of a rear-end collision by another vehicle. In the driver's compartment, forensics found the seatbelt cut in two. The tear wasn't from rot or stretch, but a sharp, clean cut, clear knife blade mark. Brown rust streaks remained on the strap, indicating it was cut before water ingress. Keene said, if Grace buckled up, someone cut it, or that person tried to remove her after the car went in. Outside, the driver's door was found locked from the outside. The lock cylinder intact, but the internal latch pushed to lock position. One couldn't self-lock from inside then exit. This meant only someone was outside the car, after Grace no longer responded, then locked it. In the photo report, remaining yellow paint around the dent showed gray-white edges of another paint layer adhered, like the impacting object left a trace. The lab took samples there, sent to chemical analysis. Under electron microscope, the paint sample showed 3 layers, yellow-white primer, gray metallic topcoat. Structure matched exactly the standard paint of 1974 Dodge Monaco patrol cars, the model Buffalo County Police used in that decade. Lena read the summary, eyes fixed on bold text, impact from motorized object. Height matching police cruiser front bumper, Dodge Monaco 1974. Collision probability, 95%. She looked up at Jensen. That night only one patrol car at Beaver Creek from 22:15 to 23:45. Jensen nodded, face tense. Frank Delancey's car. They continued reviewing all photos. Under dried mud, interior still held small details, a broken hair clip, shattered dashboard clock face, and faint handprint on windshield. No blood, but on the driver's seat, mud mixed with iron dust settled unnaturally, as if the door opened briefly, then closed. Keene added to final conclusion, frame not twisted or sheared, meaning the car didn't roll on entry. Slide into reservoir nearly straight, indicating the impact pushed it by inertia, and into water, at low speed. Mud on hood front shows engine ran at least 15-20 seconds after water contact. Lena tapped pen on table. She was alive when the car started sinking. Jensen silent. In that moment, the case exceeded undetermined accident bounds. That evening, in report to Cold Case Division, Lena Cruz wrote concisely, vehicle exam confirms, rear ended with medium force, 25 degrees angle. Seatbelt cut with sharp object, not torn by impact. Driver door locked from outside. Preliminary conclusion, victim likely attacked while driving. Vehicle intentionally pushed into water to conceal. Report, sent at 22:14. She sat alone in office, gazing through glass to highway. Passing cars left cold white streaks, just like the night in 1976 file. 35 years prior, a short line, nothing unusual detected, ended investigation. Now, another line. Bold, prepared to open entirely new door, possible homicide, continue investigation. And next morning, when Lena brought that report to Buffalo County office, the name, Frank Delancey, the one who signed the old conclusion, would be mentioned first time, not as witness, but primary suspect in a murder concealed over 3 decades. March 24, 2011, Nebraska State Patrol Materials Lab received paint sample from Plymouth Duster's left rear. In sealed, aluminum box, paint chip fingertip size, but to analysts, it could recount the entire story that silent metal witnessed. Dr. Harold Keene handed sample to Sam Ed's lab, scanning electron microscope. Energy dispersive spectroscopy, specialized equipment to view paint layer structure under electron microscope and identify chemical composition of each coat. In sealed room, blue screen light lit, focused face of technician Dr. Priya Nendakumar. We have 3 layers, she said, pointing to magnified image. Top layer Plymouth yellow, middle white titanium mixed primer, bottom gray primer with aluminum oxide, not civilian use. This special paint line, only on Dodge patrol cars produced 1973, 1975. Keene nodded. Cross-reference with Chrysler Standard Database, 1974 Monaco line. Computer scan data, displayed energy spectrographs of elements in paint. Victim car sample spectra matched exactly Dodge Monaco white-gray police cruiser standard, titanium 32%, zinc 18%, aluminum 6%, signature silica additives for reflective coat. No mistake, Priya confirmed. This exact 1974 Dodge Monaco police paint. Tech report forwarded to Lena Cruz that afternoon. Opening file, first line nearly breathless. Result, positive correlation. 99.7% match with Dodge Monaco 1974 police cruiser paint. Lena looked up at Jensen. We just narrowed the perpetrator, she said softly. Jensen frowned, but in 1976, how many Dodge Monacos in Buffalo County Police fleet? They went to Buffalo County Police Archives, musty room stacked dusty paper boxes. Archivist, veteran employee Grant Holloway, helped check 1976 vehicle registry. Thick ledger, cracked leather cover, green ink handwriting spots. Lena flipped pages until entry, vehicle type. Dodge Monaco Police Interceptor, model 1974, Unit 01. Assigned to Sheriff A. McKean. Unit 02. Assigned to Deputy F. Delancey. She paused, reading slowly. Only 2, and one of them, Jensen said, was at Beaver Creek night of December 17, 1976. Lena requested maintenance records for both vehicles that year. Holloway rummaged, pulled 2 service sheets from Buffalo County Motor Pool. On Unit 02 sheet, handwritten note in rear bumper section, repainted, minor dent 1976. Lena stared at date, week after Grace vanished. She breathed deep. Minor dent on rear bumper, repainted right at case time. Jensen said, matches impact spot on Grace's car, left rear front bumper height. They immediately forwarded to Cold Case Division. Summary report typed that night. Subject paint sample correlation. Beaver Creek investigation summary. SEMED's analysis confirms paint on victim rear 99.7% match to 1974. Dodge Monaco patrol paint. Per Buffalo County Archives, 1976 only 2 such vehicles, Unit 01. Sheriff Harold McKean, no December 1976. Maintenance, Unit 02. Deputy Frank Delancey, rear bumper repaint report December 22, 1976. Collision probability, Unit 02, Delancey. Jensen leaned back, shaking head slightly. If true, the only one who could hit Grace was the deputy who wrote nothing unusual in report. Lena silent, eyed old photo in file, middle-aged man, thin mustache, stern eyes, 1978 shot, Frank Delancey. She placed photo beside printed SAM Ed's results. Opposing evidence tightly linked. We need to confirm he's alive, she said, voice slow firm. And if so, hear from him why his car was there. Night, Grace vanished. Jensen nodded. He opened laptop, checked residency data. Seconds later, screen showed Franklin Delancey, 79 years old, current address, Gibbon, Nebraska. Lena eyed line, silent moment. Outside, sunset reddened roadside trees. She said softly, like unwanted confirmation, 35 years later, he's still here. And now, that car finally points straight to its owner. In file M1976-214, new entry added end page, suspect focus, Deputy Frank Delancey. Unit 02, Dodge Monaco 1974. Morning March 26, 2011, Lena Cruz and Cole Jensen returned to Buffalo County Archives. Low room, old yellow lights, damp paper, and old machine oil smell mingled air. They came for evidence, tech report suggested. Original docs on repainting Deputy Frank Delancey's Dodge Monaco Unit 02, late 1976. Archivist Grant Holloway rummaged iron cabinets stacked, holding sealed 70s vehicle boxes. After nearly half hour, pulled wooden crate labeled Vehicle Maintenance, 1975, 1977. Inside hundreds handwritten service sheets, yellowed paper, faded ink spots. Here, Grant said, handing Lena thin file, top corner embossed Buffalo County Motor Pool stamp. She flipped quickly to January 6, 1977 sheet. Vehicle ID clear, Unit 02, Dodge Monaco 1974. License, BCF 129. Defect description typed, scratch and dent. Rear left door repaint required. Below handwritten note, minor paint damage, left rear. No accident report filed. Lena eyed Jensen, voice low. They repainted left rear door. Exact spot paint transfer on Grace's car. Jensen nodded slow, eyes on no accident report filed. In system, all police vehicle collisions required report. This never reported. Holloway added. Back then, each repaint tech shop kept paint sample in glass vial for matching. We hold all in materials storeroom next door. They exchanged looks. Lena said, if still there, we confirm 100%. They followed Grant to adjacent small room, dusty wood shelves, stacked sealed glass jars, tin lids, old marker labels, Unit 02, Unit 03. Second row, Lena saw small jar, Unit 02. Delancey, inside faint white-gray paint layer, dried but intact. Lena gloved, carefully placed jar in preservation box, took to Nebraska State Patrol Forensics in Lincoln. Paint sample compared by prior SEMEDS method. Under microscope, energy spectra appeared, nearly overlapping Grace car transfer sample. Report displayed, match level 98.1%, identical binder and pigment composition. In other words, paint on Grace rear and stored from Unit 02. Delancey's car. Same type, same batch, same mix time. That afternoon, Lena held results. Eyes on bold end-page text. Conclusion. Paint transfer consistent with collision between victim's vehicle and Buffalo County Sheriff Unit 02. Jensen stunned silent. So no longer just vehicle type match, now exact that car. Lena nodded faintly. And driver that night, only one. They submitted to Cold Case Division. Within 2 hours, case status update order signed. Suspect status, active. Deputy Frank Delancey, retired. Copy sent Nebraska State Prosecutor's Office with all physical evidence, paint sample, maintenance records. January 6, 1977 sheet. SEMEDS comparison photos. First time in 35 years, Delancey's name officially at primary suspect. That evening, Lena and Jensen stopped car before Buffalo County HQ. Outside, wind carried snowy plain cold smell. Lena gazed through window, voice low. 35 years ago, he patrolled Beaver Creek, reported nothing unusual detected. Now that car itself spoken. Jensen nodded slightly. Eyes on dark building ahead. Tomorrow we go to Gibbon. On car laptop screen, file M1976, 214, just updated new line, concise cold, Delancey Frank. Primary suspect confirmed vehicle evidence match, 98%. North wind blew strong, rustling old service sheet in Lena's hand. Under car lights, repaint required, rear left door clear, as if pointing to what came next. March 29, 2011. In Nebraska State Patrol Crime Lab, Biological Analysis Room, white lights shone on stainless steel table holding newly unsealed evidence bag. Inside 12-centimeter silver duct tape strip. Item found in 1977 initial exam, then deemed unrelated, stored with M1976 214 file. Now case reopened, Lena Cruz requested re-exam all old evidence. And from this small item, they'd find what 35 years prior no one saw. Dr. Elaine Merrow, forensics expert who did victim DNA, directly oversaw retest. She opened nylon bag, sterile tweezers lifted tape, silver adhesive still tacky, covered dried mud dust. Beaver Creek water averages about 40 degrees Fahrenheit, Elaine said. That cold mud acts like natural freezer, preserves organic structure decades. Under electron microscope, adhesive surface gleamed gray. At 400x magnification, Elaine spotted human skin cell cluster in adhesive. Epithelial cells, she said softly, and male. Beside, tiny dark blue fiber, double twist structure, polyester typical in 1970s police uniforms. Lena and Jensen behind observation glass. Sure fiber not from preservation bag? Jensen asked. Elaine shook head. No, bags polyethylene, no textile fibers. This adhered direct to adhesive surface with epithelial cells, means stuck before car sank. Samples micro-dissected, entered DNA extraction. Sample tiny, used YSTR technique. Analysis for Y chromosome in male DNA. For tracing degraded or mixed samples. After 36 hours, automated system displayed 17 marker gene sequence. Elaine entered into National CODIS extended matching software, initial no crime sample match. She shifted to retired police health records database, holding periodic blood samples for checks. Buffalo County Medical Database still held Frank Delancey blood from 2009 routine check, post-heart surgery. Elaine requested comparison subpoena, results back 2 hours. Screen showed 2 gene strands parallel, matching all 17 law. Result, YSTR match. 100% correlation with sample Delancey. Frank, male, DOB, 1931. Elaine looked up to waiting Lena and Jensen outside. No doubt anymore, she said. Cells on silver tape his. Jensen slowly leaned against wall, eyes fixed screen. On steering wheel, he said softly. That silver tape stuck on Grace's steering wheel. Means he touched it, maybe to steer or control. Elaine added, polyester fiber chem test, confirms Bureau Blue police uniform thread by Fetchheimer maker. Buffalo County ordered that line 1975, Lena silent long. Recalled 1977 report, Delancey's note, checked area, nothing detected, and he wrote it. Now in hand, evidence he not only there, but inside Grace's car. Evening forensics emergency meeting. Elaine presented full chain, each step no cross-contam, pointed printed process chart on screen. Evidence from Beaver Creek 1977, sealed bag, unopened until March 2011. Tape processed positive pressure room, separated portions. YSTR results show DNA intact, no degradation or contamination signs. Final conclusion signed Dr. Elaine Merrow. Biological evidence confirms direct contact between suspect Frank Delancey and victim's vehicle. No contamination possibility. Sample pristine due natural cold mud preservation. Lena took report copy, sat still at desk long. Outside, Lincoln night wind through trees, steady whistle. She set paper down, said softly. Tape he left 35 years ago, now his confession. Jensen nodded, voice low. He locked car door, cut seatbelt, taped steering to push into water. Thought cold water bury everything. Lena eyed evidence photo, silver tape gleaming lab lights, between 2 sealed signatures. But water, she said softly, forgets nothing. That night, Cold Case Division Database, new status line added M1976214, evidence type, biological, YSTR match. Suspect Frank Delancey, direct physical link established. 35 years silence finally broken by silver tape strip, stuck where guilty hand once touched. April 2nd, 2011. In Cold Case Division investigation room, yellow lights cast on table piled files and old doc copies. Amid yellowed papers, Lena Cruz placed thick brown leather logbook, Deputy Frank Delancey's 1976 patrol diary. She and Cole Jensen requested original from Buffalo County Archives for handwriting exam, after physical evidence chain, paint, DNA, tape, all pointed straight to Delancey. She opened the log to the page, dated December 17, 1976. The familiar line appeared, 2215, patrolled Beaver Creek, 2345, left area. Nothing unusual. Lena examined it closely, silent for a few seconds. We've seen the old photocopy of this line in the 1977 file, she said. But this is the original, and what bothers me is the ink. They took the logbook to the Document Examination Unit, Nebraska State Patrol Forensic Document Unit, specializing in ink dating and alteration detection. Dr. Kevin Rohde, handwriting and ink analysis expert, took receipt. In the darkened room, he shone a 365 nanometer UV lamp on the page. Under the purple light, most lines glowed evenly, but the line 2245 patrolled East Dam flourished differently, a stranger blue, sharper than surrounding lines. See? Rohde pointed. This fluorescence indicates ink age under 25 years. In other words, this line was written after 1986, not 1976. Lena held her breath. You mean, added later, exactly. Polymer structure in the ink shows glycol composition, used only in Parker gel pens, launched mid-1980s. Couldn't exist in a 1976 logbook. Jensen asked, what about the handwriting? Any changes? Rohde zoomed the image on screen. Still Delancey's writing, but slower rhythm, slight tremor, style of someone over 60. I'll say it straight. The 2245, patrolled East Dam line, added at least 2 decades later, possibly 1990, 1995. Lena looked again at the line through protective glass, each ink stroke like a cold cut on the paper. He falsified the patrol log to cover Grace's disappearance window, she said slowly. Rohde nodded. If we compare the 1977 filed photocopy, the 2245 line doesn't appear. It only had 2215-2345, clear tampering. The report drafted that afternoon. Document analysis confirms alteration, added line. Written with ink type produced post 1985. Indicates falsification of patrol log. Lena brought the report to Commander Morris Grant. He read, said only. So he wasn't just there, he deliberately erased his presence. They rechecked all original Delancey documents filed 1976, 1977. On the next page, 23 o'clock, checked Route 22, nothing unusual, also in same new ink. Zoomed, camera showed impression over faded original strokes, as if overwritten to clarify, but actually changed content. Lena sighed, closed the log. He knew exactly what to cover. When disappearance deemed accident, no one thought to check log, and he exploited that. Jensen said, remember his initial report, nothing unusual detected, now we know why. That evening, Lena drafted proposal to Nebraska State Prosecutor's Office, with all technical evidence, UV fluorescence images, ink dating analysis, original log photocopy. In conclusion, she wrote, grounds to determine suspect Frank Delancey tampered and falsified official records to conceal criminal act. This constitutes obstruction of justice, further supporting suspicion he was at scene during victim's disappearance window. Next morning, Cold Case Division HQ received official response from Nebraska State Attorney General Thomas Reed. Approval for search warrant on Frank Delancey's residence, Gibbon, Nebraska. Objective, search original documents, evidence related to Grace Whitmore case, including vehicle records, patrol logs, memorabilia, and any items related to Unit 02 vehicle. Lena set phone down, looked at Jensen. We have the warrant. He nodded, face tense. After 35 years, he'll finally have to open the door. Afternoon. Task force team prepped search execution plan. Lena stood before Gibbon map, red dot on small wood house at Forest Edge. Current address of 79-year-old Franklin Delancey. She said softly, almost whisper. If cold enough to rewrite his own past, then inside that house, still remnants he hasn't dared touch. Outside, Nebraska sunset reddened sky. On table, old patrol log lay open, blue line glowing under UV. silent proof of 35-year lie. Early morning, July 25, 2011. Gibbon sky covered light gray clouds. Air colder than usual midsummer. Dirt road to Franklin Delancey's woodhouse lay still amid dry cornfield, aged like its owner. At 7:45, cold case division vehicles with Nebraska State Prosecutor's Office reps stopped at gate. Lena Cruz held court-approved search warrant, red seal embossed bright under mist. Wood gate creaked as Jensen pushed. They approached front door, knocked 3 clear times. No response. Pair residency records. Delancey lived alone, rarely left. After 2 minutes no answer, task force breached lock, entered. Inside dark, heavy damp and old tobacco smell. Thick dust on shelves. Wall clock stopped long ago. Lena signaled split. Jensen, kitchen and living room. I'm to back storage. They moved silent, flashlights sweeping walls. Everything arranged meticulously. Old Buffalo County Police commendations hung neat. 1975 uniform Delancey photo frame. Still dusty. Wood door to back storage opened rust and gasoline smell. Lena flashed light over old wood shelves. Iron crates, open wardrobe. Inside, amid dozens coveralls, hung quietly a dark blue police coat. Bureau blue type Buffalo County used 1970s. Left cuff stuck faint silver streak, closer light, clear old adhesive, dry but reflective, same as glue on silver tape from Grace's steering wheel. Jensen, need you here, she said over radio. When Jensen arrived, she pointed to streak. He gloved, test stick touched lightly. Still tacky, he said softly. And glue smell matches era industrial, acrylic resin. Lena noted, carefully removed coat, placed in numbered evidence bag, M7. Behind wardrobe, small metal box mixed old tools. Thick dust showed untouched years. Lena opened lid, inside stacked Polaroids. Edges yellowed, bundled neat. She gloved, flipped, each. All same scene, nighttime Beaver Creek reservoir. High-angle shot, car lights reflecting water. One noted ballpoint blue bottom edge. Deck 76. Patrol lights. He returned to reservoir, after deemed accident, Jensen said. Maybe ensure nothing found. Lena nodded, carefully rebundled photos into evidence bag. M8. Sealed. Beside metal box, small black cover notebook, old binding threads nearly loose. Opened damp paper, and faded ink smell filled. Pages full messy notes, mixed patrol schedules, and short hurried lines. Mid-page, Lena paused. Shaky line, darker blue ink than rest. 22:30. She stopped to talk. She read again, each word. She stopped to talk. Next line, 3 words, ink smudged but recognizable. Too close. Mistake. Lena gripped notebook tight, eyes fixed lines. This no official note, she said softly. This personal diary. She flipped end pages, more scattered short fragments, non-chronological, lights by the water. No one saw. She screamed once. No more words needed, Jensen understood. He took seal bag, numbered M9, handed Lena to place notebook, sealed tight. Enough for arrest warrant, he said. They continued search. Bottom desk drawer, small wood box held memorabilia. Old badge, faded ID card, rusted license plate fragment half. DU. Close look. Lena recognized Grace's plate remainder. Symmetric to worker found March piece. Room air thickened. Lena breathed deep, carefully bagged metal in evidence. M10. He kept car part as trophy, she said, voice low. Jensen just nodded, eyes darkened. By 11:15, search complete. All evidence, coat Polaroid box, small notebook, plate fragment, sealed, logged, handed on-site forensics rep. Lena signed scene lead section, signature sharp firm. Leaving house, she glanced dusty window. Inside, tech flashlights reflected wall frames, Delancey uniformed face, stern eyes, as if still staring cold sky outside. Think he'll still deny? Jensen asked as they boarded vehicle. Probably, Lena replied. Eyes on dirt road to Gibbon Center. But now his lies no longer on paper. They've become photos, glue, handwriting. Car rolled away, leaving small house silent midfield. In evidence trunk, Black notebook lay still, mid-page open, short, simple, chilling line. 22:30. She stopped to talk. No longer official log, but handwritten confession by self-proclaimed law protector. Morning, July 27, 2011. Gibbon Town woke pale Nebraska summer sun. End Road 14. Franklin Frank. Delancey's small wood house, still silent as years passed. But unlike mornings, today 4 Nebraska State Patrol cars lined gate. Roof lights red-blue flashing, reflecting dry yellow trees. Lena Cruz front line, bulletproof vest, held arrest warrant signed Attorney General Thomas Reed, beside Cole Jensen and 2 task force officers. They eyed each other, no words. 35 years silence ending here. At 7:10, Jensen knocked hardwood door. Mr. Delancey, Nebraska State Police, we have arrest warrant. Inside, slow footsteps, then lock click. Door cracked, revealing aged face, silver beard, cloudy eyes of former Buffalo County deputy. What's this? Voice hoarse, but feigned calm. Lena held paper before. Frank Delancey, arrested suspicion involvement death. Grace Whitmore, occurred December 17, 1976, at Beaver Creek Reservoir, Buffalo County, Nebraska. She read each word clear, signaled adjacent officer enter. We have search and arrest warrants. Turn around, please. Delancey stared, lips tight. Grace Whitmore, after all years? You joking? Lena replied calm. No, Mr. Delancey, we found her car, and your DNA on steering wheel. Words like knife into silence. Delancey froze moment, face stiffened, then forced smile. You're wrong, I just patrolled, saw snow, left. She skidded, simple. 2 officers advanced, turned him, cuffed behind. Iron clank cold. Jensen stepped, read Miranda loud. You right, remain silent. Anything say can used against you court. You right, attorney. If not, court appoint one. Delancey said nothing more. Head down. Outside, neighbors parted curtains. Some porch huddled, whispering. Local Kearney Post reporter first. Camera up. Minutes later, news online. Breaking news. Retired deputy arrested in 1976. Murder case. Frank Delancey, 65, former Buffalo County deputy, arrested this morning home. Gibbon-related disappearance and death. Grace Whitmore, young woman vanished, December 1976. As patrol car left dirt road, news spread state TV channels. At Nebraska State Patrol HQ, Kearney Field Office, Delancey taken interrogation room 3. Lena Cruz opposite. Table thick file cover, M1000, 976-214. Recorder on. Mr. Delancey, Lena began, calm firm. We physical evidence your Dodge Monaco Unit 02 collided. Grace Whitmore vehicle. We found your DNA that steering wheel. Want to explain why? Delancey leaned chair, eyes heavy. Don't know what saying, just patrolled. Saw snow falling. Left. She slid car. That's it. Lena placed Polaroid Beaver Creek night, one from his storage. And these photos what, sir? Who took? Just patrol duty? Delancey glanced, silent. Jensen placed police coat silver glue streaked table, cuff still shiny. This glue matches exactly steering wheel glue, and coat has your DNA. Room dead quiet. Recorder words steady, like tense heartbeats. Seconds later, Delancey dry chuckle. What you know about that year? No evidence proves I harmed her. Lena opened small black notebook, mid-page shaky scrawl. 22:30. She stopped to talk. This your writing, right? She asked. Delancey glanced, eyes flicker. I don't remember writing that, but remember Patrol East Dam that night. Lena replied firm. That ink produced post 1985, Mr. Delancey. You altered patrol log erase meeting grace time. He no answer. After nearly 2 hours, interrogation paused. Delancey transferred Kearney County Detention Center, await prosecution decision. Lena hallway, watched through glass as escorted. Slow gait, but eyes held familiar defiance once badge wearer. That afternoon, Nebraska Public Radio broadcast statewide, major break decades-long case, former Buffalo County Deputy Frank Delancey, 65, arrested this morning, suspicion killing Grace Whitmore, 1976. Sources say DNA, falsified records key reopening case. In Kearney, folks gathered Main Street coffee shop, buzzing. All knew Delancey respected, symbol discipline ethics, 70s policing. Now named scandal center case, most thought buried forever. Lena reviewed news, cold coffee cup hand. Jensen approached, placed afternoon paper table, retired deputy arrested in 1976. Murder case. Investigators say DNA, falsified logs, cracked case. We got what needed, Jensen said. Not yet, Lena replied. Eyes fixed, cuffed Delancey photo, arresting him one thing, making him talk hardest part. Outside, sunset reddened Nebraska fields, last rays reflected old sign, Beaver Creek, 3 miles. Crime start now end 35 years silence, and open final justice chapter Grace Whitmore never had. Official Franklin Delancey interrogation morning, July 29, 2011. At Nebraska State Patrol HQ, Kearney Field Office. Room 3, cold white fluorescent lights on steel table. Recorder ready, wall clock tick try. Lena Cruz opposite, hands neat on thick file. Cole Jensen wall leaned silent watch. Mr. Delancey, Lena opened, calm. We record entire interrogation. You right attorney, but chose self-represent. Confirm? Frank arms crossed, eyes floor. Confirm, replied softly. Voice hoarse, initial confidence gone. Lena pushed 2011 scene photo, gold Plymouth Duster, salvaged Beaver Creek, mud-caked, plate 74 due readable. You say accident, she said. But car damage proves otherwise. 25-degree angle, 30 miles per hour force. Your car only won there that night. Still call accident, frank-eyed photo. Just patrol. She lost control. Tried help. Lena tilted head, voice light. Help, by cutting seatbelt, locking door outside, pushing car water. Frank silent. She pulled evidence bag, silver tape from steering wheel. DNA this yours. And this, placed police coat table, silver glue on cuff matches, steering wheel glue exactly. Explain? Delancey stared evidence, throat twitch. I don't know. Maybe touched car searching her. Impossible, Jensen said firm. Car found sealed, underwater 35 years. You only one touched before sank. Lena opened small black notebook, pointed shaky line. 22:30. She stopped to talk. She stopped to talk. She read slowly. Do you know when you wrote this line? Frank avoided her gaze. I don't remember, but we do, Lena replied. That's the only line that doesn't match the 1976 handwriting, in your hand, but years later. You altered the patrol log to cover the time you met Grace. The room sank into silence. Only the steady clicking of the recorder remained. Frank sat motionless, his aged hands gripping the edge of his shirt. His eyes, once the sharp coldness of a law enforcer, now cloudy, weary. Frank, Lena said, her voice softening. You were a cop. You know what's worse than silence. Tell us what really happened at Beaver Creek. He stayed quiet. 10 minutes passed. Jensen poured him a cup of water, placing it gently in front. Frank picked it up, hands trembling. She stopped, he said, hoarsely. It was cold, slippery road. I was on patrol, saw her car on the shoulder. I pulled over. We talked, just a few minutes. About what? Frank hesitated. She asked why I kept circling that stretch. I said I was just doing my job. Then, she said she'd report it to superiors if she saw me following again. He stopped, breathed deep. I only meant to scare her. I blocked her front, wanted her to fear and leave. But, I steered wrong. And you rammed her, Lena said softly. Yes? No one said more. Frank bowed his head, voice choked. She lost control, slid down the slope. I ran down, tried to open the door. She was still conscious. I panicked. I didn't know what to do. Then I heard the engine. Rev tires slip more, and she vanished. Lena looked at him, eyes unwavering. But the seatbelt was cut, door locked from outside. You didn't just stand and watch. Frank breathed heavy, shaking. I was scared. She cried for help. I couldn't let it ruin my life. I cut the belt and pushed the car. I thought the water would keep silent. The room fell into a long silence. Lena turned off the recorder, sat still for a moment. Finally she said, softly but firmly, "You pushed a woman into the reservoir while she was still alive." Frank didn't react. He looked at his hands, trembling, then nodded faintly. "I didn't mean to kill her," he muttered. "But I did, and I hid everything." After signing the statement confirmation, Lena asked one last time, "What about the rest of the body?" "We only found the arm." Frank looked up, eyes bloodshot. "West side of the reservoir, deeper water. There's a large horseshoe-shaped rock. Under that." That afternoon, the forensics team and Nebraska State Patrol dive team deployed at the area Delancey described. Beaver Creek Reservoir, flat, calm, light wind blowing. Under the murky water, the dive camera captured first images, a large rock mass, and a few meters away, a dark depression. When the diver brushed mud with hand, a human skull fragment emerged, along with a silver necklace chain, still caught in underwater grass roots. The forensics report completed in 2 days. The skull matched Grace Whitmore's DNA completely. The necklace engraved with GMW, matching her jewelry description in the 1976 missing person file. Evening, July 31st, Cold Case Division press conference in Lincoln. Attorney General Thomas Reed announced, with suspect Frank Delancey's confession, DNA evidence, physical artifacts, and victim body recovery results, the Grace Whitmore case now has sufficient basis for prosecution on second-degree murder, murder in the second degree, along with obstruction of justice. In the auditorium, when Grace's name was mentioned again, everyone silent. After 35 years, the truth had finally surfaced from the water's depths, along with the remains of the woman Nebraska once thought vanished forever. Lena stood behind the podium, looking at the screen showing nighttime Beaver Creek Reservoir. She said softly, like an answer to it all, "Water doesn't forget. And justice sometimes just needs one person to speak the truth." November 2011, first snow-blanketed Lincoln, Nebraska streets. Inside Lincoln District Court, gallery packed, air thick as if everyone understood, witnessing end of a story, buried 35 years. Front row, Elizabeth Whitmore, Grace's mother, sat silent, hands trembling, holding daughter's photo. Beside her, Lena Cruz and Cole Jensen, Cold Case Division investigators, who reopened the case, thought forgotten. On defendant bench, Franklin Delancey, 65, gray shirt, hands clasped tight. Lights shone on aged face, weariness, mixed coldness. He once Buffalo County deputy, who wrote nothing unusual, night Grace vanished. Today, he sat opposite the justice he once represented. Judge Roger K. Alton rapped gavel, opening trial. Attorney General Thomas Reed stepped up, voice low but clear. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this no accident. This crime. A man who once wore law's badge murdered a young girl and buried truth under cold water, 35 years." He opened thick file, each evidence projected large screen. First, Grace's gold Plymouth Duster photo, left rear deep dent, 25 degrees angle. Approximately 30 on pria force, matching height and front bumper, 1974. Dodge Monaco police car. Next, SAMED's paint analysis appeared. Energy graphs, 99.7% match patrol. Unit 02 Delancey used. He held repair sheet, handwritten line clear. January 6, 1977. Repaint rear left door, no report filed. Reed paused, toward jury. 3 weeks after disappearance, his car repainted exact impact spot. No log, no report. We call not coincidence, but cover-up. Next, prosecutor presented silver tape from Grace steering wheel. Screen magnified DNA image. "This YSTAR sample," Reed said. "Full match defendant's DNA, and blue fiber adhered, polyester-type Buffalo County Police uniform." He paused, tone lowered, then held UV-lit 1976 patrol log photo. Line 2245. Patrolled East Dam glowed differently. This ink produced post 1985, he said, and writing Delancey's, but elderly tremor hand. He returned own log rewrite past. Courtroom dead silent. Grace's mother bowed head, tears fell on hand photo. Defense attorney Robert Hensley rose rebut. Voice calm tense. Your Honor, this accident. Weather harsh that year, icy road, Grace lost control. Delancey panicked mishandled. Not murder. He projected topography map and old scene photos, described snow-covered Route 22, partially frozen reservoir. Low-speed bump could slide her car into reservoir. No witness saw him push, 35-year confession not absolute proof. But Thomas Reed stepped immediately after. Eyes sharp, knife. If accident, why seatbelt cut sharp object? Why driver door locked outside, and why Grace's plate fragment in defendant's storage? He signaled lights off. Large screen, forensics 3D, reconstruction ran. Gold Plymouth Duster roadside stopped. White police car approached rear. 25 degrees angled ram. Tires veered. Body slid water edge. Sank gradually. Dim light, image recreated exact details per impact data. This no assumption, Reed said. But reconstruction from real numbers, and numbers don't lie. Lights on. No one courtroom stirred. Lena glanced Grace's mother. She gripped photo, lips trembling speechless. Next, Dr. Elaine Merrow, forensics expert, testified. She presented DNA extraction. Sample sealed 35 years. Cold mud preserved no damage. 17 loci YSTR full match defendant's medical blood. No contamination possible. When attorney Hensley tried cross, Elaine replied firm. If contaminated, we couldn't get complete consistent gene sequence. Then Dr. Harold Keene, collision analyst. He presented terrain map, impact calc. Car pushed not self-fell, dent no rock hit style, but controlled horizontal ram. Driver alive, car water contact. His words courtroom breathless. Reed concluded, water can't write reports, but crime traces remain. Finally, document expert Kevin Rohde called. He projected UV fluorescence original log photo. Ink contains glycol polymer. Appeared gel pens post 1985. Line written defendant retired. Alter patrol time. This official document falsification evidence. Reed closed file. Stepped slow jury. He cut girl's seatbelt. Locked door. Pushed car reservoir. Then repainted car. Altered log. Lived peaceful as nothing happened. But justice not dead. Evidence. Paint, DNA, ink, his confession, speak for speechless. Auditorium hushed. Outside, snow fell thicker. Flakes tapped window, like clock ticking end deceit era. When court recessed, press headlines blared. Retired deputy faces murder trial. Forensic evidence rewrites. 1976. Cold case. In small break room post-court, Lena window watching snow. Voice soft. No need shout believed. Just evidence real enough. Jensen beside nodded. And this time, justice not late. She turned look Grace photo table. Girl's smile dim light made Lena see clearer ever. Truth, buried ice time. Always knows surface. Morning November 21st, 2011. Snow blanketed Lincoln District Court roof. Wind through bare trees. Late autumn Nebraska cold. Courtroom, everyone silent. Jury deliberated 8 hours. Now all waited final words. Decades case. Judge Roger K. Alton entered. Rapped gavel lightly 3. Court invites jury announce verdict. Jury rep stood. Voice clear slow. We Nebraska jury after all evidence review. Declare defendant Franklin Delancey guilty. 2nd-degree murder. In Grace Whitmore death. Breath escaped courtroom. Not from prosecutor investigators. But Elizabeth Whitmore. Mother waited 3 decades hear those words. Lena Cruz hand shoulder, softly said, she's seen justice. Defendant Delancey sat silent. No protest, no bow. Aged pale face, eyes distant seeking something void. Judge Alton opened sentence sheet, voice slow firm. Franklin Delancey, sentenced 20 years imprisonment Nebraska State Facility. 2nd-degree murder and official document falsification. You once lawman. But 35 years later, evidence you hid brought you justice. He paused, eyes courtroom, said voice lowered. 35 years, time erase footprints, but not crime marks. Reservoir water kept evidence. Justice kept memory. Prosecution side, Thomas Reed nodded faintly. Jensen gripped Lena hand. No words. They followed case over year, weighted old files, yellowed reports, now closed. As police escorted Delancey court, reporter asked loud, "Anything say, Frank?" He paused moment. "Eyes no one," said soft mic caught. "I thought buried forever, but no one hides truth underwater long." Cameras clicked continuous, flashes bright then off. Steel door closed behind. Footsteps faded hallway. Outside, snow flurried light. Elizabeth steps, looked gray sky. "She's home now," said voice hoarse. Lena nodded, smiled silent. Next day, Kearney Post front page. Justice after 35 years. Former deputy sentenced in 1976 cold case. Below Grace car salvaged Beaver Creek photo. Caption. Water doesn't forget. Case file. M1976. 214 closed Attorney General signature. Sealed State Archive. Cover. Red case closed handwritten thick firm. Same afternoon, Lena Cruz returned Beaver Creek. Reservoir now quiet. Water reflected dim sun. She shore stood, gaze spot car once deep mud. Water rippled, wind cold breath winter. She said softly, like final words depths. Justice came grace. Late, but not lost. Distant, Kearney church bells rang. Reservoir flat mirror, once hid death, now only peace. After 35 years, Beaver Creek water returned truth. And justice, though late, found way back. News of the sentence spread like cold wind sweeping central Nebraska. Kearney town, usually peaceful small streets, old cafes, suddenly heavy unprecedented air. From Central Corner Bar to Buffalo County Police Station, everyone mentioned name 3 decades respected, Frank Delancey. His old colleagues, mostly retired, gathered town center diner. Table, morning paper spread bold headline, Nebraska 1976. Cold case solved, arrest shocks community. Old officer Ron Kessler, Delancey trained 1979, shook head disbelief. Frank taught me report writing, stay calm, facing criminals. He model in force. No one imagined this. Another interjected, voice low, maybe that's why hid everything long. When knows law best, knows evade too. No one replied. Only spoons clinking coffee cups, steady. Cold. Same time, local TV stations aired special reports. Screen, gold Plymouth Duster salvaged Beaver Creek image. Interspersed Grace Whitmore face, gentle smile 23-year-old back then. Anchor said, a case thought buried forever finally clarified, not miracle, but people believe justice no expiration. At Buffalo County Police Station, young officers quietly removed Delancey old photo honor wall. No one spoke, but all understood fall once badge wearer costly lesson. All responsibility, truth, silence price. Afternoon, November 27th. Grace family, small ceremony, Beaver Creek shore, snow melted, water still never crime scene. Shore, Elizabeth Whitmore wood chair sat, hands white lily bouquet. Priest prayer read, she placed flowers water, let drift current. Lena Jensen silent behind, no uniforms, just gray coats. Windlight, carried water cold sent memories. She waited half-life, Jensen said softly. Lena replied, eyes reservoir, justice late, but least came. And him, lifetime hear water sound. Ceremony end, Elizabeth turned them, voice trembling firm. Thank you, Grace rests now. Lena bowed head, couldn't say more. That evening, NBC Nebraska End-Day News, 10-minute report, closed Beaver Creek sunset image, anchor voice slow, like reminder, time blur everything, memories, faces, even pain. But one thing can't erase crime traces, and sometimes, water keeps truth longest. Screen faded, only reservoir still image, reflecting last Nebraska sunset rays, where 35 years silence ended confession. Justice finally seen water surface. Grace Whitmore's story, Kearney, Nebraska. Profound reminder: truth, strength, justice, persistence. Today's U.S. society. 35 years, one paint chip, silver tape strip, notebook line, each overlooked detail key reopened case. Reflects modern America, relies technology, transparency, integrity, maintain law system trust. Story, forensics, from Weister DNA, SEM Eds analysis, 3D scene recon, not tools, symbols, humans learning data, science speak over emotion power. But more thought-provoking people. Frank Delancey, once justice badge bearer betrayer. Altering notebook, repainting car cover mistake metaphor sometimes. Repaint truth, life, work, relationships, responsibility. But like Beaver Creek water, truth way surface, buried however long. Lesson: today's America, not just improve investigation tech, reminder: professional ethics, personal responsibility. Cop, journalist, ordinary citizen, most important: dare face mistake, dare truth, act right. As judge said, trial, time blur everything, but reservoir water keeps evidence. Justice never lost, just waits us brave enough. Face straight. Thank you joining us. Complete journey, reclaim justice. Grace Whitmore, proof truth never sinks water. Subscribe channel, miss next stories. Continue listen voices, time forgotten.